Wow, Jeremy, long time no see. Oh, unmuted.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hello,
Farida.
Adria. Hello, Ellen.
Hi, Kak Frida.
Hi.
Hi, everyone here.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hello. Good to see everyone back again.
Welcome back.
Right.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
Hi, Mr. Ang.
Hello. Long time no see, Pak Jeremy. Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, Pak
How
Jeremy,
are
long
you
time
there?
no see.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you all?
Very good.
Good.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Oh, wow.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, our Kendo exponent.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. We're gonna wait a little bit for a little bit while until people start coming.
Indonesia, Thailand. Amazing.
Do we have someone from Japan?
Yes, we do. We have Coco is in Singapore. I think Hitomi is Japan, I believe.
Hello, I'm Coco, Japanese in Singapore.
Ohayo gozaimasu.
Ohayo gozaimasu, everyone. I'm so excited. Dr. Joe in the house.
Good evening.
Told you we have
Dr. Joe.
Okay, I think we can start.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day, ladies and gentlemen. Also, hello to all the wonderful doctors to our special doctor event, education event. A very warm welcome to everyone from USA, Canada, India, Norway, UK, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, Cambodia, Japan, New Zealand, Thailand, and other parts of the world. Welcome, welcome. Hi, my name is Adria, and I will be your host for today. I know everyone, including myself, is very, very excited because today we will have the opportunity to learn and understand better how amazing Jogenex is impacting a lot of people worldwide by the creator himself, Dr. Joe Gonera, who is the leading scientist in the forefront of epigenetics with 40 years research in biochemical medicine and also biomechanical science. Wonderful. All right, to start off our event, I would like to invite the wonderful Mr. Remy Hussein.
Thank you, Adria. Thank you. Hello, everyone from all around the world. Can you guys hear me well? Just want to make sure. Okay, great. Thank you. So thank you so much for joining us on this call. I'm sure all of you know that this particular event is a very exclusive event. So all of you will be observing a special session that's catered to doctors. All right, this was especially requested because a lot of people wanted to know about the revolutionary Jogenex. All right, since it was only just released, like just a few months end of last year, right? So a lot of people are are very, very intrigued, because this is a whole different level of nutrition, whole different level of wellness. I know this because I've known Dr. Joe personally for more than 13 years. And so my whole family has personally, benefited from his knowledge, because he's helped a lot of people in terms of, natural healing and all of that. So for me, I am very, very excited every time he's working on something new. But this time, I think it's the pinnacle of it, because this is the best. And he himself mentioned that this is the best that he has ever come up with. And so, we've come a long way, but since a lot of people have seen a lot of amazing results, testimonies, personal experiences that they've had by actually putting this in their body. Right? So I don't know where you are in the world today, but if you've gotten your hands on this, I'm sure one way or rather you have benefited from it. So a lot of people want to understand, especially the doctors, they want to understand how come the body can do certain things, when it is given specific raw materials, right? So there's none other than the creator himself and the founder himself, Dr. Joe, to explain it to them. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll have a session where he will explain exactly what he's created with Epigenetics. And the other thing is that we will have a short interview session where there will be some general questions from the doctors, also from the public, which I will address with Dr. Joe. And then later we will have a Q&A session where, of course, all of you can take part, but if it's an overlap question, then we will ask one of it. Okay, we cannot take too long. So for the men, if you have questions, please look for one of our moderators. Our moderators are Mr. Alan Thum. So search his name and please send your question to him. Okay, that's Alan Thum putting his 4 fingers up. Okay, so he's a handsome man in the jacket. And for the ladies, can you please send your questions to our lovely moderator, Yvonne Tay? Yeah, she's waving right now. So please search their name on the chat and personally send the message to them, all right? Private message to them. So they will compile all the questions for the Q&A at the end, and we will bring them up to Dr. Joe, God willing, okay? So let's make this a smooth event. So for those of you, can you please make sure your microphones are on silent, you have your pen and paper ready, because everybody wants to learn from Dr. Joe, not just the doctors, okay? So I'd like to welcome all the doctors from all around the world. I think we have more than 20 doctors right now on the call. And everyone's really excited to find out, because some of the things here are pretty amazing results. Later I'll also personally inform Dr. Joe. Some of the results are really controversial because it's never happened in probably modern medicine before. So we're all kind of speechless. So without further ado, right, we are very, 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 very honored, all the way from the USA. He's from Austin, Texas. The amazing founder of Epigenetics, the man, the Sifu behind it. Everyone, can you please put your hands together for my dear friend and great individual, Dr. Joe. Welcome, Dr. Joe.
Remy, thank you so much, and thank you, Malaysia, and all parts of Southeast Asia, and all the way over to Europe. It's an honor for me to be able to present to you tonight. So Remy, thank you so much for that kind introduction. And I hope we have some valuable information for everyone tonight.
For sure.
Right. So shall we get started?
Yes, please. So we have all the doctors, they're all ready.
Right. Good.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna open up a PowerPoint and kind of, so we'll have some pictures to look at And Rami, can you tell me, are these coming through? Are we okay?
Yes, we can see that new paradigm.
Okay. Well, perfect. Well, the title of the talk tonight is a new paradigm of health, and the topic is, and the subject is epigenetics and gene expression. And I want to go back in my career all the way back into the 1960s. I went to my undergraduate work was in the field of engineering science, and I spent nearly a decade in that field, and then made the transition over to medicine. And primarily, I had a real focus on natural medicine, particularly biomechanical, structural things that affect function of the body, and also the biochemical, the biochemistry of the body and how all that incredible things work. So back in the 1970s, I began doing research and work on food-based compounds and how they affected health. And very rapidly, we began to see things that were categorized in traditional medicine here in the United States and in Western medicine in general as nearly miraculous results. And that kind of started a real fascination for me as I knew the healing that was taking place in the human body was not because of me, but it was because of our inherent God-given capabilities for our bodies to be well. We have that right within our bodies. And as I went through the 1980s, I began to see more and more amazing things happen. But we did not have the scientific understanding at that point to really know why is this happening, how is it happening, and what incredible function was going on down below the tissue level, down into the cell, and all the way down into the DNA. Were we able to affect that function all the way down into the nucleus of the cell? Well, the first real clue came about the year 1988 to 1990. Research was conducted here in the United States on a plant, and the plant was broccoli, and they found out that this plant contained chemicals that had profound, incredible results with cancer. And so that started an explosion of research to this very day. And that research has been, how are these food-based components, how are they affecting human health, human wellness, and human disease? And when we first started with that first project back in 1988, there were less than 100 research projects in the scientific literature on these food-based compounds and how they worked or how they were controlling bad health conditions in the human. Well, today there are over 500,000 of those studies that have been done worldwide, many here in the United States, many in Malaysia, many in Indonesia, in Japan, all over Southeast Asia, all the way over to Europe. Literally laboratories around the world began to study these effects. And after 30, 40 years in clinical practice, I've always been curious, why are these patients getting dramatic results when they were failing on traditional medical interventions? And so that led me to this current knowledge of epigenetics. So what what we know is that the epigenome has a direct impact on gene expression. And I'm so thankful that we have a lot of healthcare practitioners on the call, because we're going to dive in a little deeper than we normally would. Most people, and this document came from a Professor Wu, who's actually from, I believe, Taiwan, and this was published in about 2011, when we first began to realize that DNA was being controlled by carbohydrates, lipids or fats, and proteins in our diet, and vitamins and minerals. And with that discovery in 1988, we really began to go, these phytochemicals in conjunction with carbohydrates, fats, enzymes, nutrients of all types, micronutrients of all type, is having a control mechanism over the DNA. And just a quick review, the DNA is contained inside the cell and it's wrapped up into chromosomes, and they make up the tissues of the body, and ultimately this mass of tissues called the human being. And this research that's been done on DNA in the last decade, they realized there were genes, 25,000 genes in the human genome that control everything. But there was another master system called epigenetics, a system over the DNA that literally had the ability to switch genes on and genes off. And a lot of this early work was done with cancer and cancer research. Our products are not designed to treat disease, but to affect human function, biochemical function down inside the cell, in the cell cytoplasm, and into the nucleus of the cell. So this science is nearly a decade old now, and every day it changes in terms of new information coming out. So I began developing products for doctors, for doctors' offices, for companies, back in maybe a decade ago, decade and a half ago. And I've had some enormously great mentors that are scientists in the fields of glycomics, metabolomics, lipidomics, proteomics, scientists that have spent literally their lifetime understanding these minute molecular structures. So we created a product based upon that gene expression. And here's what we know. Down at the level of the gene, there is another system called epigenetics, and it consists of molecules that cause DNA methylation. Very important process for whether the DNA protects itself, whether it's damaged, whether it expresses itself correctly. Histone modification. As the DNA is wrapped and packaged, it has to be unwrapped and read, and factors control that histone modification. And a new area, exciting research, is called microRNAs, small fragments of ribonucleic acids that have enormous impact, not on one gene, but literally have the capacity to switch on systems of genes that push the body towards wellness and better health. And in the last decade, we have found that nutrition is a massive epigenetic modulator of gene expression, as are lifestyle factors and physical activity. Things like age and gender and family genetics, critically important. What environment are you in? Are you in Beijing that has maybe a lot of pollution in the air versus being on a Polynesian island away from humanity and the air is very clean? That has a different aspect in terms of gene expression. But my work has been in the field of nutrition and physical activity, the biomechanical parts that control gene expression. So my work began back in the 70s in the things that control the most function in the body, and those are phytochemicals. And these are in classes, but primarily these polyphenols, as you'll see in a research article that I'm going to show you later, are the most studied. We've discovered about 10,000 of these polyphenols in conjunction with organosulfur compounds and terpenes and alkaloids and other phytochemical structures in different plants that have profound effect on gene expression. So the critical issue of today in the forefront of new medical science is phytochemicals and how they control through epigenetics gene expression. So there's a global problem, and a great illustration will be that we should be getting these phytochemicals from a wide array of these plant-based foods. And the goal is, according to the United States government, eat 2 of the foods from each one of these yellow, white, green, purple, and red food groups each day, and you will get maybe enough support from phytochemicals to have a tremendous wellness impact. But as you can see in America, in the USA, 80% of Americans do not get enough of this color spectrum. As I've traveled around the world, beginning in around early 2000s, I've traveled to 10 different countries, and I've seen a change from traditional diets, even there in Malaysia, Rami, where people are eating less of their natural foods and their natural diet and going more to packaged, processed, Western style diets. And it's having a tremendous impact. So this is the real problem. We're not getting enough phytochemicals from our diets so that we can control gene expression for optimal health. And so the solution is, and I've always been supplementing the human diet with phytochemical food-based compounds so that we could have ultimate wellness. Well, that's why we created Joegenics as a global solution, because as you'll see, it's based on decades of scientific research. To give you an example, one single ingredient in Joegenics in the scientific literature has over 10,000 scientific studies. In the last 5 years, a lot of those studies have demonstrated that this one ingredient can control tens, dozens, hundreds of genes by this one single ingredient. So what we've done with Joegenics is included 20 scientifically studied ingredients so that we could get what we know in science, synergy of compounds. And again, I'll show you how this is now moved to the forefront of science. When I began talking about 30 years ago, nutrient synergy, there was no scientific validation of that concept, although we knew it to be true. But today, and I will show you at the end, how science has come up with combining these phytochemicals is the magic. And that's why we have built Joegenics. Zoogenix will provide the body with thousands of phytochemicals from different plant species. And that's very important because, as you saw before, we need to get 2 from different colored vegetables each day. So that's what we've tried to do from a scientific standpoint, get as much phytochemistry to control as much gene expression by that epigenetic control. And we're very excited about that. So what are the benefits when we talk about that? Well, a product should be easy to consume and it should be enjoyable. And Zoogenix, we have certainly accomplished that. It should be, a benefit should be that a product doesn't just affect liver function, that it affects multiple body systems. Very critically important, particularly at a time now where the global world is being controlled by a pandemic, and that virus is infecting our systems in multiple ways. So we need strategies that affect multiple body systems, not just single approaches. So Zoogenix supports hundreds of cellular systems inside the cell for cell signaling, cell membrane receptor recognition technology, so the cell can send a signal from the membrane to the nucleus, and then the cell can change its genetic expression for wellness. And that is so incredibly important. So we know our products are very synergistic. Zoogenix is very synergistic with all the technologies that ThanksI has created in the past. And I will tell you, because synergy is so important, everything that we create for ThanksI for the future will always be synergistic, so that they complement each other, so that you can get as much health benefits as humanly possible. One of the big important areas is to support brain health and brain function. The brain is the central processing control mechanism for everything downstream. For every other body function, it all starts in the brain. So a lot of our Zoogenix benefits are right there at the level of brain function. And it's important because we want great memory. We want attention ability. We want less distraction in our mental processing in our lives, because life is very complicated in the 21st century. Stress at all levels of the body is now known to instantaneously control genes on or off, and stresses from physical, emotional, or environmental have that epigenetic control. So having a product like Zoogenix that has the ability to work at the gene level gives us maximum capability of controlling our internal and external environment. So some of the other benefits, I'm always asked, and I know a lot of the healthcare practitioners tonight will be asking the question, well, what exactly does Zoogenix do? Well, in simplified term, it provides raw materials in the form of phytochemicals to the body, internally in the body, so the body can restore. And a lot of people, most people around the world, have some decline in physiological function that needs to be brought back into what's called homeostasis, or in traditional Chinese medicine, yin and yang, bringing the body back into balance. And when it's in balance, it can handle most any insult, even the ones that are the most egregious to our system, like cancer. And we'll show you how the world is talking about that in the field of research. So it's critically important to have a product that can restore health and then optimize health. And a lot of my career for over 20 years was working in the Olympic and professional sports arena, helping those athletes get just a little bit more performance so that they could win at the Olympic and the professional level. And they had and wanted to always optimize their health. And that's critical for all of us to go from restoration to optimization so that we can maintain that throughout a lifespan. And that's always been my goal. I've always been somebody that's been a consumer of the technologies that I treated patients with. I always did them for myself first so that I could maintain my health throughout a lifespan. And I'm much older now than I was 40 years ago, but my health is still at the upper 0.1% of health of people my age on the planet. And I said, because I've always used products like Epigenetics. So Epigenetics works through epigenetic control of DNA gene expression. And I want to show you an article that was published in the International Journal of Molecular Science. And this was published September 14th, like a year and a month ago, a couple of months ago, in 2019. And what they showed in this article, and I'd like to maybe go look at that article in another area. Let me see if I can find that. Yes, here's the article in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences. And this says combinational, like we've done with Epigenetics, combinatorial epigenetics impact of polyphenols and phytochemicals in cancer prevention and therapy. And this work was done with colleagues down at the University of Alabama here in the United States, the Department of Biology, Comprehensive Center of Healthy Aging, Comprehensive Cancer Center, Nutrition Obesity Research Center, Comprehensive Diabetes Center. And what they were looking at from a lot of scientific different viewpoints, how combining these phytochemicals had epigenetic control for cancer prevention. And I've always been a person that's made this statement. It's far better to prevent than to have to entertain therapy, particularly in things like cancer, but any other diseases. So I wanted to show you that that's where this article
Joe,
came from. Yes.
Dr. Joe, we can't see the slide. They are out of the presentation mode.
Oh, really? Can we see this one? Maybe I better go back over here.
We can see, but the first one, Dr. Joe, saying the combination epigenetics. Yeah.
Now we can see.
You can see, but okay. Here's what the article was about. I'm sorry if you couldn't see the other one. I apologize. But the abstract of that article, I want to show you what these scientists in this multi-center research report verifies that what we're doing with Epigenetics is scientifically sound. Because their abstract says this: polyphenols are potent micronutrients that can be found in large quantities in various food sources and spices. These compounds, also known as phenolics due to their phenolic structure, play a vital nutrient-based role in the prevention of various diseases such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative diseases, liver diseases, and many known cancers. Relatively recently, numerous studies have indicated that various dietary polyphenols and phytochemicals possess properties of modifying epigenetic mechanisms that modulate gene expression, resulting in regulation of cancer. And here's the summation that these doctors in this research project, and like I said, there are hundreds to thousands of these studies. This is what I do, constantly monitoring the scientific literature so that we know our products are scientifically sound. These polyphenols and phytochemicals, when administered in a dose-dependent combinatorial-based manner, meaning how did you put them together and did you get the right amount so that it causes that gene expression? When that is done, they play a role in cancer prevention, and hence this review will focus on the mechanisms of combined polyphenols and phytochemicals that impact various epigenetic modifications such as DNA methylation, histone modification, as well as regulation of non-coding microRNAs expression for treatment and prevention of various types of cancer. And I will tell you that the goal of a lot of this research is to impact the human system without using chemotherapy, radiation, because of the tremendous side effects of those pharmaceutical drugs. Science is now looking at these phytochemicals to be the future of ancient medicine. It's been here since our beginning. So I just wanted to show that this is extremely, very, very scientifically sound. Let me go back over here. And that kind of concludes the opening volley of educating about this new paradigm of health, epigenetics. So Rami, I'll kind of turn it back over and we can maybe entertain some questions at this point. If we have time, I'll do whatever we need to do. So thank you very much for letting me share some information about Joegenics.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Joe. That was simply amazing. Of course, half of the stuff that you shared, because I'm not in the profession, it's alien to me, but a very, very informative. Like for me personally, because I've had, personal impact from Dr. Joe's previous products that he's come up with, and that itself was life-changing for me and my loved ones. So I really, Dr. Joe, thank you so much for that. And that was maybe probably more than 10 years ago. Now we've come a long way, Dr. Joe. I mean, it only has been just a few years. So let me just ask some questions. These are just some common questions because we've moved in terms of technology, in terms of the engineering of the product, and everything has moved on to a whole different era. Because before I never heard about epigenetics then, right? So we were talking a lot about antioxidants, about all of that, how to protect the cells, and but the language is still the same. You're talking about providing the body with the specific raw materials that it needs to maintain itself, to defend itself. It's just that right now it's a whole different level. I mean, before I think you in your product you probably had like maybe 12, 13 different sources of plants extracts. Right. Now it's like I can't even count. Right? I don't know. So what we wanted to know is how, I mean, you took probably what, 2 years, 3 years just for this particular product, Joegenics, to develop?
Yeah, it was actually over a decade in development, but once we got the desire on the part of Thanks I, they said, Dr. Joe, can you create a product for us that's state of the art? Yes, but it took another 2 years to get that the raw materials found and extracted from the plants, then the manufacturing capabilities there, because it's very sophisticated. And then the testing to make sure, did we do it correctly? So that it just doesn't happen overnight. So yes, it takes a long time to put it together.
Yeah, I mean, taking it to that level, synergistically working together, all these things is just mind blowing, especially for us, the laymen. For the doctors, yeah, I'm sure we'll come to them in a short while. But we just wanted to know, because you were mentioning also gene switches, DNA switches, because these two things are different. Am I right?
Well, the DNA molecule contains roughly 20,000 genes. And each one of those genes are switching on and off instantaneously. For instance, I'm about to drink some water. That water immediately hit my tongue, and my gene expression changed based on that liquid hitting my tongue. And it's so amazingly complex. That's a good liquid. The human body needs water. So that was positive. So our goal was, now we understand this molecular mechanism at the gene level. Let's identify those plants and those phytochemicals that will combine together to get maximum effect for health. And that's, again, what Joegenics is about, so that we can sleep better, we can have more energy, we can have clarity of thought, we can have less pain and discomfort in the body. All the things that plague humanity, we want to begin to try to address in a very broad way with a product like Joegenics.
That's so true. I mean, for me, yeah, previously I had that experience. I thought that was probably the best thing that I put in my body 10 years ago. But this time when you came out with Joegenics, it took me to a whole different level. I'm older right now, right?
Yes.
But I feel a lot better. My focus is a lot better. My sleep is just amazing. The clarity, and especially when you have one sachet and you take another one, I'm like, it takes me to a whole different level. That's my personal experience. Okay. So how, is there a limit to how much you can take, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's where science, if you recall our article, they were talking about not only combining them together, but getting the dosage right. Yeah. And they, after 10 years of study, still do not know how to add it, because these are not drugs. These are complex things combined together. So what is the dosage? We don't know. But my work, I work in the field of anti-aging medicine and research. And the National Institute of Aging here in the United States says you probably cannot get enough phytochemicals in your diet. So what they're saying is more is always better. The limiting factor is how much food could you eat. So a strategy is Joegenics, very hyper concentrated bolus of phytochemicals. So if one is good and you're in optimal health and want to maintain health, that may be all you need. But if you have health challenges and you need to restore health, you may need more phytochemicals on an everyday basis until those genes have learned to stay switched on properly, because they have a memory pattern. If they've been off for 25 years, they can switch on, but their tendency is going to want to switch back off based upon lifestyle dynamics, environment. So we're controlling every day our gene training with Joegenics, and that's what's important.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, even yourself, Dr. Joe, you look so much better than I ever imagined. How old are you right now? Sorry,
I'm approaching 74. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm excited because I've been doing this for 50 years, and here's what's exciting to me. I've got a lot of research partners that we got in anti-aging medicine 20 years ago. And I still have the same amount of hair, just very little, but it's still black. Okay, for the most part, my body has not aged like theirs. They're all 20 to 50 pounds heavier. They've lost their hair's turned gray, they feel tired and fatigued, and I'm still a competing athlete at age 73 going on 74. So it works, okay? That's all I can tell you. And we want vitality of life, right? And Joegenics is a tool not to treat disease, but to treat the epigenetic control of our genome so that we can get and be the best of who and genetically possibly we can be. And science says we can live to be 100 and be very healthy. That's the goal I'm working on, so we can have this conversation 20 years from now.
Amen. Let's do that. Okay. So yeah, we've seen a lot of amazing things happen previously, even with the old technology of products that you've created. Right now, even, I mean, it has only recently been launched. It is only available to some of us here this year. Okay. So
right, correct.
And we've seen a lot of unexplainable, amazing effects on it. You can see some of those on this call here right now. I've heard some things which I cannot believe, which I'll address with you later, because these are quite sensitive stuff, Dr. Joe.
Sure.
But if I mention it here, I think it will create some controversial.
Yes.
Okay, so we will address that later.
And just so the doctors and everyone knows, again, Joegenics is not a treatment for disease. It works at a level way before disease ever occurs. It's the ultimate preventative apparatus, but it does, in the event of health restoration, it is also a very, very powerful tool.
Very true, very true. And so since we're going that way, since Thanks I, the organization that's, that's done all the research with you together to create this, they have a lot of other products which has the JAPA certification, the Japanese Association of Preventive Medicine for Adult Disease. Are you guys working towards that certification too with Joegenics?
Yeah, and those are very complicated government things. And yes, we have a team with Thanks I that's going to try to take Joegenics and get it as approved and as legal in as many countries around the world. And each one's got different rules and regulations. So yes, they've got a whole team that works on that. And thank goodness I get to do the research. They get to do all the paperwork stuff.
We're very, very happy to hear that.
Maybe I heard that the Joegenics is under the process of applying to the JAPA certificate.
Oh wow! Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaneko-san.
Amazing news. Thank you. Okay, so would I be right to say that because it's all plant-based, we have some people on the call here who really want to be sure that it's vegan, that the Joegenics is totally vegetarian. Am I right?
Absolutely true. And we've made a very special point to do that because we knew in certain sectors of the world, India and in Taiwan, we have a lot of vegetarian, vegan practicing people, and it's very popular here in the United States. So this product is all plant-based. There are no animal components in the product whatsoever, even in the manufacturing technologies that's needed to get it in the package. It's all as pure as it can be from a vegetarian standpoint.
Great, thank you, Dr. Joe. I think from me, last one before we pass it over to some of the questions. Right now, especially moreover than any other times, people are looking into increasing their immune system, making it better due to the current pandemic and everything, right? I know you can't so much on that, but what are your thoughts about that in terms of the current?
Yeah. Well, I did a call the other night with Taiwan, and on January 3rd, I got a call and began to understand we got a problem in Wuhan, China, and it's going to be a global pandemic if we don't do something. It's now turned into a global pandemic. Today in my town, over 1,000 people, brand new cases. 17 people died today in my town. Okay. So we got a real problem. The good news is the scientists, as they looked at the pandemic, it was new, it was novel. They began to say, what is going on and what can the human do? What is the best strategy for the human? And all the scientists agreed, we've got to do something to increase the power of the immune system. And it is a complex mechanism. Immunity and immunology is incredibly complex. Eugenics, one of the targets before the pandemic was ever heard of, was the human immune system, because it's incredibly, incredibly important. And control of inflammation, having antioxidant capacities at its maximum. Those were all therapeutic targets that we knew we had to meet if we're going to have a global wellness superstar in the arena. And so that's kind of what we've done. And here's the good news, Ramey, for the distributors and for the doctors. Never in my history as a healthcare practitioner has there been more information from the government, from the media, from the scientific community to tell the human, do everything you can to be healthy. Never in history has the globe been pushed in that direction. And we have a product right in the middle of that incredible trend. So how good is that, you know?
It is. The reason why I asked that, Dr. Joe, is because we have some cases as soon as possible. You know, just wanted you to have that comment. That later on, that will probably be separate from this. It's a private thing because that has to do with COVID-19. Okay.
Okay, great.
I'll talk about it right here because these are amazing things. If you guys have any kind of conditions, you can share it with also our moderators, right? The women with Yvonne and also the men to Alan. You can also share some conditions that you want to get Dr. Joe's advice later on, okay? Because we're not going to address that here. Today, we're going to address some questions from the doctors. So right now, we'll go into the Q&A. Maybe we'll go with the men first. I'll leave it to Alan. Alan, you can hear me, Alan? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we'll go with some questions from Alan. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Joe. Nice to see you again.
Hello, Alan.
Always a pleasant to see your wonderful smile.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got few questions here. Okay, first is the polyphenol the same as the one inside green tea?
Yeah, green tea, epicatogen, and there are many, many compounds in green tea. A lot of the superstar players are polyphenols in green tea. And that's why we selected green tea as one of our ingredients in Epigenetics. Not for that just one compound, but for hundreds to thousands that are in green tea. It's a superstar player.
Okay. Also another one, the ingredients that go into the product, are they clean, as in organic? And basically, where is it made? Is it organic?
Yeah, the ingredients come from all over the world. And, you know, the challenge is, where do you get good, clean, raw materials? So my life has been spent in the area of raw material acquisition, where if I'm going to use green tea, where do I get the cleanest, the best green tea that's been extracted under the best technology and then tested after it's extracted to make sure it has the phytochemical profiles that we're looking for. So all of the ingredients are clean and the best we can find in the global supply market.
Okay. Another thing is that you speak about disease prevention. However, are you seeing any like results with helping on advanced condition by any chance? It's basically advanced conditions.
Of course. And again, our product is not designed to treat disease because we're a dietary supplement, and the laws globally say you can't make claims about it even if you have the scientific evidence. That's again the problem with pharmaceutical medicine controlling the world. However, thousands in my practice and literally millions of people around the world with cardiovascular disease, neurological diseases, insulin metabolism diseases, have taken phytochemical products and have had tremendous results. So here's what we say. If a person has a condition, obviously we want their doctor involved to see, is it okay to take Joegenics? Okay, number one, it's safe, it's clean, there is no downside to it, but we need that. And then we want to be able to know that that product is going to do no harm. And that's all part of our design team's desires to get the best product clean out there. Not only organic if we can source it, but it's got to go through microbial testing, heavy metal testing. We test it for hundreds of heavy metal environmental contaminants. And if it's not up to our standards, we reject the batches.
Okay. Can Joegenics help in high cholesterol?
Well, we don't make any, again, cholesterol metabolism is controlled at the gene level. So if it's out of control, we want to now call that a disease. We don't treat the disease, but Joegenics works at a level to help support pancreatic function, insulin levels at the genetic level so the body can heal itself. That's how the body works. And so Joegenics can be a real tool in any of those bad health conditions. And it supports, not treats. Big difference.
Okay, and I think this one can tie in with the earlier question on the advanced condition. How does Joegenics help with bad cell condition requiring chemo?
Yeah, well, I've done a lot of work over the past. Last night I had a cancer patient in my home talking about strategies now that they've gone through chemotherapy. I work with oncologists, and modern advanced technology, if they're going to do chemotherapy, when we work with them, we combine, as that research article showed, combining phytochemicals and chemotherapy makes the chemotherapy work better and less side effects of the chemotherapy on the body. So we know that that works. That's been proven time and time again. But again, we're a dietary supplement using it to support the body, not treat the body.
Okay. Another question is how fast, basically does Joegenics, help the immune system strengthen to protect a person from viral infection?
Right. When Joegenics is taken, it goes into the mouth either in liquid form, mixed in water or tea, or just directly the package in the mouth, and there is an immediate response to the system. And all of that phytochemistry starts working immediately in the body. Now, when will a person feel it? That is different for everybody, depending on where their genes are and their genetic code is. Everybody's response time is different. Here's what we typically see. Small percentage of people are going to have an immediate response, and even in ill health, it's going to make a change very quickly. 80% of the people are going to have a very positive benefit in a 30-day period. And if we go out to 4 months on Joegenics, the majority of people are going to have a massive red blood cell turnover under the influence of Joe-genics, and their system is going to be dramatically different 4 months later.
Okay. There's one word which I can't really pronounce here. He asked, have you heard of fibromyalgia?
Fibromyalgia?
Yeah, chronic,
Yeah.
something to do with chronic pain. So
Yeah,
does this,
a condition that we, 25 years ago, it first got named an unknown condition where different parts of the body is under intense pain. And again, all systems of the body and all expression of nerve pain is controlled at the level of the gene. So that means some gene expression is not working good. And my approach to those conditions, fibromyalgia 25 years ago, was use a broad spectrum of phytochemicals and let's see what the results are. And we had tremendous results in fibromyalgia patients with phytochemicals, but we didn't know why. Today, we now know that those phytochemicals are changing gene expression, down-regulating pain mechanisms, up-regulating restore and repair mechanisms, and the patients are getting better. And that's so beautiful.
okay. There's another question here that says, epigenetics is a personalized approach to gene expression. How does one single formulation of product provide such a personalized solution?
Yeah, well, it's personalized to the individual because we've taken not one species, like, say, turmeric, which contains unbelievable compounds in and of by themselves, but we've taken 20 different ingredients with tens of thousands of phytochemical inputs. And that allows that individual to change their genetic expression positively based upon where they are. And that's going to be different than where I am or different where Alan is. Everybody is going to respond differently based on their genes and how they're operating, whether they're down-regulated, turned off, or turned on inappropriately. It brings the body back into that balance that we so desperately need.
Okay. Oh, getting more questions here. Does it interfere with other medicines, treatments a person is taking?
Yeah, that's one of our design criterias, and we work, with some of my mentors are pharmacologists and people that make drugs for a living. And we know when we make a dietary supplement, it's going to go into the general population, not only in the United States and Canada and Mexico, but all of Southeast Asia, all of Europe, and people are going to be on medications of all types. So we've tried to select the ingredients that have the minimal effect on contraindicating drug nutrient interactions. And so it's safe, but because it's a dietary supplement, we always recommend if somebody's taking a medication, consult with their doctor to make sure that if there is green tea in our product and that doctor does not want their patient taking green tea, he can look at that and say, well, you're not a candidate at this time for that product. So we always respect the doctor-patient relationship with each individual.
Okay, I think I'll pass it on to Yvonne for a while. I'm going for too long. I'll pass to Yvonne for a while.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alan.
Hey, hi, Dr. Joe.
Hi, Yvonne.
Hi. Okay, so I'll ask some questions. There's one question about how does Joe-genics help athletes? Just now you mentioned a bit about that. Maybe a bit, can you mention a bit more details? And then do you recommend to take before or after training? What's the best time for them to consume?
Yeah, it's a great question. Here's our experience, what we've found clinically with thousands of patients, and now in the research arena, phytochemicals tend to do best on an empty stomach. They're absorbed, Their bioavailability is much better than if they're combined with a big meal, generally. So we usually say first thing in the morning on an empty stomach is kind of an ideal time. If you're going to take it multiple times a day, then wait either before a meal or 1 to 2 hours after a meal so that it can go into the system most effectively. It will work good anytime, but it's optimal on an empty stomach.
Okay, very good. And then how do you know that you are taking enough? I know you mentioned that we can't take enough, right? But how do you know that
Right.
it's a suitable amount?
Yeah, well, I always recommend somebody start and just get started. If 1 packet per day on an empty stomach, after a week or 2 weeks, you don't feel any difference. It's probably working at the gene level, but you don't feel it, don't experience. So you may want to take more for a while until you can figure out what's best for your system, because everybody is biochemically different.
Okay. Oh, there's some specific questions about some conditions. So I'll ask some of them. Can Joe Genetics help someone who is a kid, 7 years old, and have hearing loss for 2 years? Seems like maybe some water got into the ears, but have the hearing loss for 2 years. Would this help?
Well, we don't know, because again, hearing loss, is it a nerve damage hearing loss where the nerve cannot regenerate and repair and grow, or is it a biochemical problem? And so here's the great news. Regardless of what's going on in the system, Jogenix is going to provide those raw materials to make it better. Whether it changes it to the point of healing and repair and regeneration of tissue, we do not know the answer to that. We've seen it in a lot of different conditions, but we can't make a claim about it because it's not a drug, it's not medicine. This is a support mechanism to get the body going back to optimal health. I always say, try it. The worst that it can do is make you healthier.
Okay. Then there's another lady asking this. So a child, age 5 years old. So most people think that long-sightedness is usually of old age, but this child has long-sightedness, so always squeezing the eyes with a lot of muscle problem. So the doctor advised this kid to wear glasses like spectacles for correction. So she's asking whether there's any advice from you and whether Joe Genetics would be suitable for this kid and what age kids can take Joe Genetics.
Right. It is a dietary supplement. So the global regulations are don't recommend things to young children under the age of 6 unless it's being done by their pediatrician. That's just kind of being a safety factor around the world, because a lot of vitamins are synthetic chemicals, and they know these are damaging to pregnant, lactating women, and especially young children. So when doctors and scientists educate that phytochemicals are food and food-based, there's no real restriction that I've ever talked to a doctor, a pediatrician, that said, wow, that's just great food. They need more, not less of that, once they know there's no synthetic chemicals in there. So yeah, it can be used in the very young, the middle age, and the very old, no problem.
Because ours is food-based and is natural, right?
Right.
That's great. Somebody's asking about autoimmune problem. If somebody has autoimmune problem and the kidneys are already damaged, can they take Jogenix?
Yes, and it should be. Autoimmunity is a malfunction of the immune system, and the body is now attacking itself. So that is dysregulation. And phytochemicals, according to that research article, they re-regulate that genetic expression so that the body won't do that as much anymore. So we've seen patients with multiple sclerosis SLE, rheumatoid arthritis. Those are all autoimmune systems. Psoriasis, those are autoimmune diseases, and Jogenix supports that very well, so those genes work better and they are less symptomatic. We don't say it cures, it doesn't treat, but it certainly supports that body getting healthier.
Okay, so that also covers the multiple sclerosis, which is somebody else's question. Another question, I'll combine it, is does Jogenix help with weak lung conditions or asthma?
Absolutely. Lung conditions, certainly asthma is one, but asthma is a biochemical response from a lot of different things attacking the body environmentally. And again, that causes a malfunction of gene expression. So here comes Jogenix, and it helps redistribute those bad working genes so they're less asthmatic and they can get more mucus out of their lungs, and they can lung function like any other body function improves, usually very dramatically.
Okay, got it. And another question from Dr. Liang. After taking Jogenix, when can food be taken to improve the absorption of Jogenix?
Okay, let's say that one more time for me, Yvonne.
After taking Jogenix, when can the food be taken to improve the absorption of Jogenix? It's probably
well, it's again best absorbed on an empty stomach. So just taking it on an empty stomach is kind of the best in terms of absorption of a lot of these polyphenols and other phytochemicals. And I might not be hearing that question correctly. So,
Dr. Joe, her question is after taking the Jogenix, how long that we should keep it without eating? How long later we can eat so that we can
how long we 30 minutes. Let it get into the system 30 minutes later, no problem.
Okay.
For consumption of a meal like breakfast or lunch or dinner.
Okay, that's great. I'll pass it back to Ellen.
And Tess, thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll continue here on back again. Does Jogenix work for Parkinson's?
Well, again, we make no claim about disease processes. That actually can get us in great trouble. But Parkinson's disease is a neurodegenerative disease of the brain. And guess what? Genes aren't working properly in Parkinson's disease. So a good diet has helped a lot of Parkinson's patients. A lot of exercise helps Parkinson's patients. So when you combine all these phytochemicals in Jogenix, it gives a Parkinson's person the greatest support of their genetic expression so that they could restore, defend, and repair and regenerate tissue. Now, Jogenix is brand new on the market, so we haven't seen a lot of those patients. So we know it's going to be very beneficial, but we don't make claims about treating disease. We got to be very, very careful about that.
Okay. Is there any side effects or level of toxicity if you've taken too much?
Is there any problem?
Yeah, if there's any side effects or level of toxicity.
I'm going to say no, because the worst patients that we generally work with are cancer patients with chemotherapy and radiation. And the Jogenix and phytochemicals help that work better. So generally, and because of our formulation, we don't see anything but helping the body, even if it's under medical care. Medicine is even as strong as chemotherapy. It's very beneficial.
So, Nico, you want to ask a question?
I've got
Yes.
some questions that were directed to me directly. Can you guys hear me? Dr. Joe, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Kaneko
Yes.
wanted to ask a question.
Oh, Kaneko-san? Sorry, there was a overlap.
Oh, okay. So Dr. Joe, some people say the taking the Geogenics doesn't feel the much, but my understanding is the Geogenics goes to the part of your body where it's needed most seriously. For example, if somebody got the cancer somewhere, their Geogenics goes to that part first. So the other part, they are getting the benefit later on. You know, if their products enough go to that serious part, then the extra Geogenics goes to the other part. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's like the body has a priority system. If we have damaged tissue and malfunction of our genes, Geogenics is going to work there first. And then if there's enough and it gets this correct, now the body heals and restores, and Geogenics is now used for optimal health expression. So there's always a priority system. The damaged areas are going to be affected first. You may not feel those, but they're working at the gene level. Very, very good point.
Yeah, so it means that if the person doesn't feel anything, maybe the person has somewhere very serious, which the person didn't feel it, right? So that's why the Geogenics is really working hard to that part first. So some ladies, I want to be beautiful, but their skin doesn't improve quickly. Maybe somewhere inside is needed the products first. So they're
it could be working. It could be working on another area first. Yes,
correct. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
those are the questions and the answers that our scientists, I go back and now I talk to the scientists and I go, here's what the questions are. And they usually say, we don't have the evidence. We haven't done clinical trials. We don't have $1 million to study that one thing like the pharmaceutical companies do. So they are doing that work for us. And so we look at the literature and kind of extrapolate the data based on what we see from a clinical side to the scientific side, and then back to the human side.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Joe.
You don't feel anything, but definitely Geogenics is working somewhere inside your body for sure.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely true.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
It's never being wasted. It's going to be used somewhere for optimum benefit.
All right, Dr. Joe.
Yes.
Question from a doctor. How does the product specifically improve immunity, and which ingredient and how does it support as human stimulator or as a modulator?
Go back half the sentence.
All right.
Let me hear it again.
All right. So how does product specifically improve immunity, and which ingredient and how does it support as immune stimulator or as a modulator?
Yeah. Well, most of the work that I've done have seen that these chemicals work as modulators. Drugs work as dictators. They force a biochemical pathway. Phytochemicals are nature's modulators. They bring things back into balance. So first of all, that's how they work. And they work at different levels. Some work on the cell membrane receptor level. Some of the phytochemicals work in that transfer of cell signaling from the cell membrane to the nucleus, and then reverse signaling from the DNA all the way back out to the cytoplasm for defense and repair and regeneration. Those are all systems that are turned on by these phytochemicals.
Thank you. The other question here is, that's a very general description of epigenetics with polyphenols. How does the science described relate to the product ingredients?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question, but let me just tell you what we've done from a scientific standpoint. We've got an ingredient called turmeric in the product. And turmeric's been studied, 10,000 studies on curcumin, one of the molecular structures in that compound. But the magic, as that research article showed, is the combination of those different phytochemicals together from multiple plant species. In that research article, they used 4 different plants species. We're using 20. So we're getting much more power when we do that combinational approach. So it's never one ingredient does one thing. That's kind of old thinking. Vitamin C does this. Well, zinc does this. Well, zinc works on hundreds of enzyme systems on the body that affect 10,000 biochemical pathways. So it's much more complex than we ever imagined. But the simplicity is phytochemicals in the body cause that gene expression, and it's usually always 99.999% positive. And we haven't found any of those negatives, but we got to say there's possibility.
Okay. So what ingredients in the product is used to preserve the natural plant extracts in powder form?
Yeah, we don't use any preservatives, which is kind of nice. Each one of these botanicals have their own antioxidant system to protect themselves. So we do the extraction and keep it in dry powder form until it's opened and consumed, and it's fresh each and every time that way. That's a beautiful thing, because I used to make a lot of liquid products, and in liquids you have degradation curves going on, especially once air hits it. But with Joegenics, it's always fresh the moment it hits the body. So we don't, beautiful thing, we don't have to use preservatives in the product.
Okay. And my last question here from a doctor is, how does Joegenics affect a pregnant woman?
Well, it should affect her in a very positive way, but because it's a dietary supplement, we always have to make the statement, it's not intended for the use of pregnant and lactating women. The reason is because a lot of dietary supplements are synthetic chemical compounds that can be very damaging to a developing fetus, to a young baby, and to a breastfeeding woman. So Joegenics has none of those problems, but we cannot say without the person deciding for themselves if they want to use it for a pregnant lactating woman. She can make that decision of, I want these foods in my body. There is no negatives about putting these foods in my body unless they were allergic to one of the ingredients. And that is, again, very, very rare.
Thank you, doctor.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Okay, I have a question from a doctor here as well. Okay. Are there any biomarkers for health or wellness that you use in your clinic? Example, HRV, BP trends, blood sugar levels, measuring sleep quality, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In the clinical level, we're looking at things like C-reactive protein, which is a marker of inflammation. We look at blood levels of blood chemistry, particularly cholesterol metabolism, LDL, HDL, VLDL levels. And we've monitored those for decades and seen tremendous improvements in those biochemical markers. And there are now literally hundreds of those that can be done. That testing is very expensive, but it certainly can be done. And that's what's being done in the research arena to validate that something in green tea has the ability to change function in the human body. And again, 500,000 of those studies have been done. And I've read literally thousands of them. I haven't read 500,000. I've got a long way to go. And so we know that that's happening, and it's all in a very positive way.
Does Joegenics play a part in the cell signal, like cell signaling?
Absolutely. And that's an area of fairly current research where some ligand or some material appears on the cell surface receptor and makes that connection. And it's not one molecule that does that. It's literally hundreds to thousands of complex things that at the cell surface causes that cell to now make a signal. And Jogenix is incredibly important in that cell signaling system. Hundreds of studies have been done on the ingredients in Jogenix in that cell signaling system. So it's incredibly important.
Okay, and last, if someone's taking Jogenix, okay, do they still need to take minerals or are there iron inside Jogenix?
Are there
iron?
Onions?
Iron, iron.
Iron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iron,
Well,
iron.
and all of these plants, again, are grown in the soil, and we try to select the plants that are grown either organically or in a wild environment that has great soil. So every one of these plant extracts have dozens and dozens of different minerals in there, and they're combined so that synergistically they work on gene expression. So they contain every known vitamin, every known mineral, most naturally occurring enzymes that occur in plants, and thousands of phytochemicals are all what's in Jogenix. That's the magic of how it works.
Okay, Yvonne, any questions?
I think there's one question here. I think it's quite. Can Jogenix be used for children with learning problems like autism, hyperactive children?
Yeah, that's a global problem we're seeing expanding, kind of like Alzheimer's in the old is expanding. In the young, it's autism. And both of those conditions are malfunction at the DNA gene level. So here's the promise in the future of medicine. We're going to go back to the plant kingdom and use plants to change that gene expression so that children with autism, and I saw it 20 years ago, when they're fed better, their brains work better. Now, does it cure? We don't know. In anecdotal cases, yes, but we have never done a study on 200 autism children and looked at that because nobody has ever done that kind of study. Those are going to be done in the future, but we know Jogenix, because it's food-based, thousands of phytochemicals, the worst it can do is make those autistic children function better at every level of their expression. And hopefully we're going to learn enough to dial it in for these phytochemicals for autism, these phytochemicals for Alzheimer's disease. That's what the pharmaceutical company is doing all this research for, so that they can find those phytochemicals, take them from the plant, make them into pharmaceutical medicine, and make a drug out of them. That's kind of the basis of the research. And we know that's not the best approach. Using the plant and its complexity is the best approach.
Okay.
And I saw
two
that
last
one on
questions from me. Just two last questions from my side. One is, does Jogenix help with anxiety problems? Another one is, can it help with body growth problem? That means they are not growing properly like normal people.
Okay, let's go with the first one. Tell me again.
The first one is the anxiety problem.
Yeah, anxiety. Well, we know anxiety, and this is amazing, some of the current research, anxiety, which is a mental process, is caused a lot by anxiety and depression by free radical damage in the level of the brain. Okay, and that free radical damage causes gene expression to change. Well, guess what? Jogenix changes gene expression in a positive way, so people are less anxious, less depressed. That's one of the real beauties, and that's a real problem in society today. So I think it has great opportunities for help in that area for those people to support their body restoring back to better health.
That's great.
And what was the second one, Yvonne?
The question is body growth problem. I think like somebody does not grow like a normal.
Not grow properly. Well, again, that's a regulatory function, usually at the endocrine level with growth hormone signal from the hypothalamus to the anterior pituitary. That signal is critically important. So the anterior pituitary can release growth hormone to affect thyroid function, adrenal function, and growth factors all throughout the body. So again, lots of work in phytochemicals and human growth hormone and hormonal control and regulation of the system back to better health. So great, great opportunities for health there.
And there's no conflict with taking Jogenix with other medicine, right?
Jogenix?
Taking with other medicine.
Yeah. Well, if a person was on an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety drug, we would want to have them take Jogenix to their practicing doctor and say, this is incredible base food and I would like to take it. Is it going to interfere with my medication? And usually we see, when I work with the doctors, we see improvement. So we use less pharmaceutical medicine and more phytochemical medicine till we don't need the medication from the pharmacy anymore. And the body's naturally controlled by food again, like it's designed to do.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Yvonne.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ellen and Gobi, any more?
Can I go as one short question?
Okay, Alan.
Dr. Joe, there are so many different questions, but in general, the Jogenix will only do good, but it doesn't do any bad. So whatever the sickness, whatever the symptom you have, it's worth to try, isn't it?
Absolutely true. That Kaneko, it couldn't be said more simple. Try it and see if it works for you, like it's worked for thousands of other people around the world. And hopefully, with all of us and the doctors involved, we can educate the planet for better health, and we can have, as a company and as distributors and as healthcare providers, an opportunity to help be a part of changing the world's health. And that's what I'm excited about.
So no matter how old they are, how young or how old or how clinical or how serious, it doesn't matter, right? Try it, right?
Try it. It can only do good.
Okay, thank you very much. That's more than enough for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kaneko-san.
One more question from a doctor. Sorry, I know time is running out. Okay. Does it do anything to increase the body's glutathione production levels?
Yeah, I think it's glutathione. And that's one of the amazing antioxidant systems. So here's what happens. Jogenix goes into the body and it hits the receptor on the cell membrane. It signals into the DNA in the nucleus, and enzyme systems are turned on to protect the body. Superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase systems are turned on by these phytochemicals. And that's why it works so well for so many people.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for questions. I know we have a lot of questions coming in privately and everything. We try our best to accommodate, but due to the limitation of time, we have to respect everybody's timing from all around the world right now. Dr. Joe's timing also, because it's late at where he's at. So thank you once again. If you have further questions, you can send it over to us. So we'll try and get it answered on a separate time. Like I mentioned, Dr. Joe, we have some specific cases which are really mind-blowing for a lot of us. We will address that privately with you.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Joe, for really all your time, especially for us. We really value what you're doing, your work, your research. We will definitely, want a lot of people to know a lot more about this. Hopefully, we can have more of these events. I'm sure it's beneficial not only for our medical practitioners, but also, the public who's here, to observe. Now, I know a lot of people are asking, how did you get this into your countries? We have people from different parts of the world. You can, as long as, get back to the person who invited you on this call, as long as you have an address, even though Thanks I is based in Japan, right? We can deliver to more than 120 other countries, so you can get your hands on the product, not a problem. So if you're looking for, to partner up with us in terms of bringing it into your individual countries, we are open for discussion, of course. Let us know, because a lot of people still do not know about Jogenex because it's new, right? It was just out in the market late last year. And this year, even, just less than a year, it's already changed a lot of people's life. And, it has helped improve many, many things. So in fact, at 6 p.m. today, we have an event specifically talking about how these products can be actually brought into your countries. Please find out the details from that person who invited you on the call. I'm sure they will know more about it. We have friends from Macau, we have friends from India and Singapore organizing it. And also we will have Mr. Nobuhiro Kaneko, obviously also on the call. Okay, so you may want to find out more or be an observer about the discussion that we're going to have at 6 p.m. today, Malaysian time. That's Malaysian Singapore time. Okay, please find out the exact times in your different time zones. That's 6 p.m. Malaysian time. Indonesia will be 5 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so please find that one out. Okay, so if guys, Dr. Joe has helped athletes, Olympians. I've, through the time that I've known him, he's helped some people even become champions, in the Olympics. So, can you imagine if it does that for athletes, what it could do for us?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, once again, thank you everyone here for your time and for being involved. The doctors especially, we really appreciate your time. And I hope this benefited all of you. It definitely benefited me to understand how come it can take me to a whole different level of my health. And some of you here got a lot of your questions answered. So hopefully we have more of these events. I hope it was beneficial to everybody. Yeah, I will. I'm like I said, I'm very, very excited about this health movement. There's no wealth without health, guys. And this is, I believe, is a revolution to the wellness industry. So if you want to be part of our revolution, then we welcome your partnership and your friendship. I'll pass you back to our lovely host, Adria Abdullah. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much, Brother Amy. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us. I'm sure a lot of people are pretty excited over this phenomenal creation by Dr. Joe. I'm very grateful to be given this opportunity to be a host and, being in the presence of the amazing Dr. Joe. All right, that's all from me, Adria. Wishing you all a wonderful weekend, and may God bless us with great health and wonderful wealth. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. Wonderful session today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joe.
Joe.